Hey friends, it's John. You're on the JRB Tree Climbing channel. Let's talk about the Longhorn Agile Hitch and how to tie it in a form that it is as compact as possible. There is some prerequisite knowledge. You have to be familiar with the Longhorn Agile Hitch. See the video on my channel tying the Longhorn Agile Hitch. All video links will be included in the video description. Also, in order to build the Longhorn Agile, we needed to have the Longhorn loop. So please be sure you've also watched the video on tying the Longhorn hitch and Longhorn loop. Just like a Prusik loop is used to build a Prusik, a Longhorn loop is used to build a Longhorn Agile hitch. Both of these creatures, they look identical, but you'll notice the one on the right is just slightly longer. Both of them were created with 6 feet or 72 inches of 6mm cord on 9.5mm rope. Now, the exact diameter of cords and ropes can vary a little bit, so the lengths might vary slightly, but I'm going to show you how to use the information on jrbtreeclimbing.com, specifically on the length specifications to dial in your design. Now, when I tie the Longhorn Agile hitch, you'll notice it has this really nice auto-tending feature. It auto-tends. But in certain situations like hitch climbing and stick climbing, I want the carabiner to be the tending device. And so I'll engage the carabiner, and now you'll see I get a little bit of play here. There's just about, I don't know, 1.5 inches of sloppiness. And if these loops were longer, there would be more. I want them to be as compact as possible, and I'm willing to accept the fact that it might be unstable because I'm going to leave a carabiner inside of it as a placeholder. Well, this one on the left is more compact. There's less play in there because I've got these loops smaller. That's the only difference. How did I do that? Well, it's pretty simple. It's simply that I used longer working ends when I started the Longhorn hitch. You can see the one on the right has shorter ends and the one on the left has longer ends. So let me tie one real quick and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, now if you refer to the information on jrbtreeclimbing.com, there is a length specifications page with a table of information for the Longhorn Agile. And by the way, I reserve the right to update this table with fine-tuning these measurements. But it states that for 6mm cord, which I have, on 9.5mm rope, with a reference cord length of 72 inches, which I'm using, that if I use 12-inch working ends to start my Longhorn loop, and I use 18-inch working loop to start the Longhorn Agile, I will get loops that are about 2 inches long. All right, so let's measure that. That's exactly what I used to build this. And I know you can't see the details here, but let me pop off my carabiner and measure the shorter of the two loops, and sure enough, that's 2 inches. That's 2 inches. I built one with a 2-inch loop. Well, I want that to be shorter. I want it to be more like, just big enough to get a carabiner through there, 3/4 of an inch long. So I want to take off 1.25 inches on each side. Well, because this is a loop, that's a total of about 2.5 inches that I need to take out of this loop and this loop. So I'm simply going to start with a longer working end. Let's do that now. Okay, here is my 6-foot length of TRC. I'm going to measure working ends that aren't the reference length of 12 inches. I'm going to make them about 2.5 inches longer. I'm going to go with a 14.5 inch working length. So as I pinch this point here, there's 14.5 inch of ends hanging behind me. And now I will form a Longhorn. Now I'm going quickly. You can't follow along, right? Because there's already a video on how to tie a Longhorn, and this video is simply, we're using that. We're building on the tools in our toolbox. Just like you got up this morning, tied your shoes, and you didn't need a video from me to do it. The same is true with the Longhorn. I said in the tying video, it takes me about 30 seconds to create one, and that's exactly how long it takes me to create one, and it'll take you to create one once you work on it. There, we've got it. We've got a Longhorn. Next step, create the Longhorn Agile. And according to the website, we need about an 18-inch working end for our loop. So I'm going to measure here 18 inches. Got 18 inches from the beginning of the loop to the end here. That's 18 inches from thumb to thumb. And I'll start to form it. And I'm going to be aggressive and wrap this pretty tight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As the fifth turn goes around the back, it starts coming down, goes around the back 2 times. And I know I did well if this aperture is just big enough to get my finger through, and it is. We're in good shape. Now I lengthen the other load loop and put it through there. And it's a little tight, but that's good. That's good. We want this thing to be really compact. So with it in that very, very kind of jammed and compact state, first I'll put my carabiner on the back in a normal mode that we would use a Longhorn, and I'll just kind of, you know, break it in, just hammer on this a little bit to get it flowing and loose. We'll test that it auto tends in its normal mode, and now we'll test with the carabiner engaging the rope. And this is exactly how I look at my Longhorn Agile as I hitch climb and stick climb. Exactly as I tied it, I put the carabiner on to engage both loops and the rope. And now as I ascend, it tends itself up the rope, and I never need to put my hands behind the rope because the tree trunk is right there, and the tree is not always uniform. There can be bumps and knots and whatnot. We don't want to have to put our hand back there. We can simply rise on our foot loop, grab our hand on the carabiner, and advance the hitch up. But you can see how this has virtually zero play in there compared to this is the original. Now, the last thing is that I like to orient my carabiners in a manner that makes them easy to engage on my bridge. And so when I build this, I leave a carabiner in. And so let's remove this carabiner. When the carabiner is upside down and engages my bridge, well, as a right-hander, the easiest way to operate it is like this. This is the Petzl William ball. That's the easiest way for me to operate it. I operate the ball with my middle finger. So if I want my carabiner to be oriented there, well, then I will put it in this way and flip it around. So that is the way that I like it to be, and that's the way you'll see it on my systems. And I like the William ball because it's got a big opening and it allows me to put a large item through here, including my bridge and the friction hitch that's on it. All of that may sit inside of here. And so I wanted you to see exactly how I'm tying the Longhorn Agile in its compact form so that that's not a mystery when you see me hitch climbing and stick climbing. Okay, thank you very much.